Especially when you're.
Yeah.
What do you call it? The tailgate party.
You go to Saturday night.
I'm not gonna go Saturday night.
You know?
I'm going to state conference Saturday. That was an excuse.
Is Matt?
No, I don't.
His office is closed for him today.
Okay.
Hi, Reeser.
You know,
Reeser, do you have a pencil?
what's that?
Do you have a pencil I can borrow?
Really, do I look like I'm in my class?
Pencil, me and Trenton are gonna have to share.
There's something here.
Thank you.
That's not a very good question to ask you.
We're getting it done. It's our last project, so we're doing it now. Just started.
You see that I've scheduled, as your teacher told you that I've scheduled time to come and interview.
Well, he said he was gonna talk to you about it, but.
Yeah, I sent those days off, so.
Okay.
Stuart.
Okay,
All of
yeah,
us.
I sent those off to
No,
all.
I'm gonna boost.
So, I got two of them right after school and one of them at 6.
Okay.
Get there.
Hey, Reeser, like Rigby's school board, they elected.
Yeah,
Okay, cause my uncle's on the school board, so I think I'll just talk to him.
that works.
But if I can't get to with him, then I'll probably come to an
Make
interview.
sure that's okay, Mr. Stewart.
Yeah, he said the other schools.
So, he says it's
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, yeah.
Or you don't actually elect it, sorry.
No, you're good.
Yeah.
Or do you come? Sure, you can come.
So I brought the nation of Constitution Day.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what you did?
Yes, this is one of those things.
Guess it was, yeah. Bigger chances.
Hey, Reeser.
Fire.
Yes.
It said.
What were you doing down there?
He's not gonna do it. The mayor's not gonna do it.
Okay, so that. But it said that the representative council was not crazy.
You can write down some of the employees and.
And they would count.
I think so. I would like it.
So, Colin. You got your signs already for up?
Why does everybody just smile at that?
We're just glad it's not us.
That's exactly
Exactly.
what Dave said. He said, I'm so glad it's not me. I'm saying going.
I'm feeling a whole bunch of questions from my colleague downstairs.
Oh, yeah, what's her name again?
Who's that? Oh, Dawn.
Yeah, it's kind of
Yeah, she's my boy. Sorry, I didn't know that. So, today. Yeah.
her husband's police officer.
I said, she just, her name's not Dawn. I mean, so she gets, she goes by Dawn.
Yeah, she goes by Dawn.
Her married name is.
Should we start?
Wait.
I'd like to welcome everybody out to City Council tonight. Probably be the most entertaining time you kids will ever have from high school. So start our meeting having Brian Johnson will give us give us an opening prayer, and then Colin Erickson leads in the pledge.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we're so thankful for this beautiful evening. We're thankful for this beautiful city that we live in and for the opportunity that we have to serve in it. We ask you to please be with us tonight and please keep us safe. Help us to make sound decisions and consider other people's feelings. And please bless all the residents that live here. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Please rise and repeat after me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The mayor's not in town. Today he's in Boise at some meetings, so he's asked that I conduct the meeting tonight. Mariana, can we do the roll call of council members?
Here.
He's asked to be excused.
Here. Here.
Councilmember E. Anderson.
You're gonna have to enunciate the word.
Okay.
Here.
Thank you. Councilmember Easter.
Here.
Council President Waffle.
Here. Okay, we have a full quorum. Now on our agenda, we have time for public comment. This is when public's invited to come up to the front and discuss anything that is not on the agenda. And we ask that you keep your remarks to about 3 minutes. Is there anyone that'd like to come up? Okay. Okay, we move on to item number 4, public hearing. Public hearing for the fiscal year 2026 utility rate change. Matt.
I do not know where Matt's at.
You want to?
So this. So the resolution, here's the changes for the utilities. There's no change on water and sewer. And garbage has the changes reflecting the additional costs attributed to recycling for the residential. And they are also removing the safety lighting fees. So that's what this is reflecting. Any questions that we haven't already discussed?
On
Mm.
on that second page of that's in the packet,
Uh-huh.
yeah, that
Like
one,
the sample bill?
sample bills.
Uh-huh.
My understanding was that the commercial would increase a little bit because of the moving of the recycling fees. Did I not, because everybody's gone down.
No,
No, commercial wouldn't increase with the recycling.
Okay,
it actually decreased because the shift from, so
Because of the
commercials aren't
lighting?
paying any recycling anymore.
Lighting coming off too, so that's a decrease.
okay, so everybody's bills go down.
Just a little bit. So if you look at the bottom, scroll up, sorry.
This,
So on each one, so you can see the business sample bill. Right? So
Uh-huh.
You get a negative 0.4%. Right, you scroll up, you get on the next one up,
So their
apartment.
garbage did go, no, still went down.
yeah.
Okay,
And
well,
so-
I'm good. I mean, that's great, but I
Yeah.
misunderstood, I guess.
Lots of plan, because all the recycling is attributed to residential now instead of
Right.
commercial. So they're paying their share. They're
Yeah.
the ones that do the recycling, so.
Thought with that shift though, that we were that the commercial was gonna get a little bit of a break, but I guess maybe
No.
that's the case.
So the residential garbage, it did increase. Here's the increase of 3.8%. So it's the cost of it did.
Any more questions? Okay, go ahead.
I just can't remember. So do they have recycling though? They
No.
don't, right?
Does not.
Yeah. And the apartment complexes don't.
No, that's why a lot
Yeah.
of it's just going back to residential because it's 90% residential.
Had 90-gallon cans.
Okay, in the public hearing, we have three things that happen. First one is let's open the public hearing, those who are in favor of resolution on the utility rate can get up and speak, and then next one's in the neutral, then those that are opposed to it. We'll go in that order. So now open this public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to talk in or speak in favor of this resolution? Seeing none, anyone in the neutral? Seeing none, any in the negative? Seeing none, I'll close this public hearing. Now I can entertain a motion to accept resolution number 2026, utility rate change. Sorry, resolution number 2025-08.
Mr. President, Council President, I would make that motion that we pass resolution number 2025-08, the utility rate changes for next year.
Okay. Motion made by Councilmember Eric Erickson. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Johnson. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that resolution passes. Okay, now we go to item number 5A with Matt Nelson. Staff report.
Pull up the presentation real quick. Then I'll go through these. I won't get into the details that were on the big spreadsheet, but if you guys need to reference those, we can pull it up. But I'll just kind of go through the summary of this. So we've been working with our broker, AJ, Argyle, Terry, and myself. I don't think Terry's here, so you can go to the next page. And we have seen, so he was able to come to us and basically give us an experience report for the first 6 months of the calendar year. So we're just looking at January through June, right? And we had a lot of large claims. And so you can see, like, if you compare us to the prior year, we were at 77%, which basically means that they were making some money on us last year, right? In that first 6 month period. But this year we're at 119% experience. And so they're losing money on us. And so as we tried to figure out what our renewal would look like if we were to stay with Select Health, they basically came back to our agent and said it would be close to a 30% increase. And then he was able to negotiate it down to 12.6% approximately. And but anyways, I'm kind of jumping ahead, but you can see some of the other numbers here. I'm not going to go through every one, but we did see significant increases in our utilization for pharmacy and for the medical side. And a lot of those were dependents that are on our health plan. As we kind of looked at it, Terry and I always look at it and we're like, are there things that we can do to prevent it? A lot of them were cancers. Some of them were heart conditions. And we do a pretty good job. I mean, we're probably 98% of our people go do their wellness exams between employee and spouse. And that's because if they don't, we don't give them any HRA funding. And so it's an all or nothing deal. And so some of these things are just really hard to prevent. Brand names, some of you may have experienced this. I feel like Select Health has been pretty aggressive working with the employees to try to have them use generics where they can. And that's simply because brand names are just they're the bulk of the cost. I mean, you can see, even though they were 8.3% of the prescriptions, they accounted for 85% of the total pharmacy costs. And a lot of those, like our biggest ones are, in fact, our three largest ones are rheumatoid arthritis. And so that's the one that is the biggest. But anyways, those are the kind of the numbers we saw. So if you go down to the next one, I'll show you what basically a couple of other things. So one big bullet point item to consider is we will be losing 27 employees on our plan, with the fire department transitioning to the fire district. So, and then you can see the 12.6% increase that I mentioned. We are not recommending that we change anything in our plan design. So the benefits that are available to you. You know, sometimes when you try to tackle these increases, you look at, do we raise the deductibles? Do we raise the co-pays? Those kind of things. We felt like we didn't want to recommend any changes there. And then just so you guys know, we went through this actually this morning with the employee committee, and they felt comfortable with these recommendations as well after we reviewed them. So what we are recommending is that we increase the deductions on the employer side. So for those respective departments that those individuals are in, 7%, which is exactly what we had budgeted as an increase. And so that's already in the budget. And then we're recommending a 12% increase on average. It's give or take a little bit. Some are slightly below, some slightly above, but an average at 12% increase for the employee side. And so what that means is for the employer, that adds about $2,400 a year to the cost of the plan. If you're looking at family, which is our biggest group, and then it adds about $500 a year out of the pocket of that respective employee through those deductions. And so what we did is last year, I think it's been a couple years now, we've really tried to structure the deductions and the payments so that the employee is paying 15% of the cost, and then the employer is covering 85%. So we did that same thing. And so this, if we were to go with these recommendations, we would keep that at the 15%, 85% split. Another thing that we want to mention to you is based on the experience that we're seeing, our agent, he said that he would strongly recommend that we budget up to a 30% increase next year in 2027. And just so you guys know, when our health insurance goes up that much, it doesn't mean that we have to increase the budget that much. Because as you think about what's included, what we pay for out of those deductions, we're paying for HRAs, which we haven't changed those in probably 18 years. I'm guessing it's been the same number for a long time. And then we have dental insurance, which is a part of that. And dental insurance is, you know, compared to what you're paying for health insurance, it's next to nothing. It's just cheap compared to that. And so as you look at this, I'll just kind of bring up the dental insurance and the vision. So AJ has not received a renewal for either of those. Probably won't for a little bit longer. But he recommended that we estimate a 6% increase in our model for dental. We are asking you guys if you're comfortable, if it does come back at 10% or less, that we don't come back to you. And to give you an idea, if it came back at a 10% increase, it would go from about 167,000 a year to 184,000. And then on the vision, same thing. We haven't heard back yet, but we're estimating about a 5% increase in our model. And you can see that the total cost for vision is only about 36,000. So if it had a 5% increase, you'd be looking at about $38,000 that would come out. Let's jump to the next one. So this is just to kind of give, we went through this with the employee committee. It gives the employee kind of an idea of how does this affect me? Well, because you guys approved a cost of living adjustment of 2.42%, if you were to take an employee that makes $50,000 a year, that's about $1,200 increase in pay per year. But then we would be having them increase their deduction for that family coverage about $500 a year. So really their net increase is about $710. So it kind of shows you that impact. And the impact is less, obviously, with the someone that's just single insurance for themselves, right? And if you guys want to see those, they're on that big spreadsheet. I'm not going to pull it up unless you have specific questions. So really what we're looking for is we are looking for a recommendation from the city council to basically move forward with the existing plans for dental, health, vision, et cetera. And then the recommended rate increase that we just showed you, which would be a 7% increase, which is in the budget. And then we would not do any further budget adjustments or ask you to take anything out of contingency or put anything back to contingency. And then the open enrollment would occur on those dates in November. They would have about 10 days to really go in and do that open enrollment process. So, and it's probably important to note, we've been saving up money to try to look at self-funded. Losing 27 employees is not going to help our cause on that. But we are looking at other options. We've looked at the IIIA, which is a group of cities in Idaho. I would suspect that we'll probably be, 4 more years before they would quote us. And they told us last year, come back in about 4 years and we'll see if we would take you on. The other thing that Terry mentioned to the employee committee this morning, I think it was it City of Pocatello? So they tried to do similar to what school districts did a couple of years ago, where they were able to go onto the state plan, which of course is a very large group. And I don't even think it got out of committee, if I remember right, for cities. And so, yeah, so hopefully that's something that, as you guys talk to legislators, that would be huge for cities to be able to go onto that plan. And I think it was huge for school districts, and it helps pass along some savings to both the employer and the employee.
Sorry to interrupt, but have you checked on the size? Because if I remember correctly, the smaller school districts, it made perfect sense for them to jump onto that plan. But the larger school districts ended up having to pay a very high premium to get in on it. And then after that, it made sense. So
Yeah.
the largest school districts kind of held off for a year or two. Do you know what impact that would have on the city of Rexburg? Let's say they do allow us to come in.
Mhm.
Would we have to have a large amount to buy in, or?
We really wouldn't know that at this point, but we would at least have the option to shop it, right? And that's the positive, is that you'd be able to look at that. The other option, which we just don't know if it's a possibility, but we may even look at kind of our local entities. So if you think of Madison County and some of the larger entities, if there was a way to have all of us pool our group, there may be some positives there. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is that we're probably going to have to put that on the back burner for several years for us to consider doing that as our own group with, 100 and it's right here, it's 126 or 121 people on the insurance plan. So that is, I know that was a lot, but we're just looking for your guys's go ahead, if you will, to move in that direction. And then Terry would work with AJ and start getting that enrollment process ready.
So Matt, the reason that we can stay at the 7% increase is because we lost 27 employees.
That's not necessarily the reason. The reason why is because we're actually going up about 12.6% in the health number itself. But we only need to go up 7% on the city side and 12% on the employee side. And that allows us to generate enough additional cash to pay that increased premium for the health and to pay a little bit for the dental and vision as well. And that
So I don't follow.
what it does too, just so you guys are aware, right now we're setting aside, this year, 2025, we set aside close to $500,000 into that reserve, or that savings, if you will. Next year, we're going to dip into that a little. That's going to be more like 367, 368. So we're dipping a little into that. Plus we're asking for a 7% increase from the departments, plus a 12% increase from the employees. And doing all that allows us to have enough inflow of cash to pay for those outflows for those premiums for dental, health, vision, and the EAP.
So did our did our budget include the 27 fire department employees?
Yeah, oh yeah, originally our budget did include that. The only
So
difference
Is
is
that still in there? I mean,
it's still technically in our budget, but the thing that you have to remember is we're gonna still pay what that transfer is. So when you think about what did the city pay for fire services, which is what we're paying for, that is currently that's in our budget as a transfer. And that comes out of the general fund and it gets transferred to Fund 17, which is the operating fund. Now you have to think about it a little differently. The operating fund is not going to be in our books anymore. It's going to be in the fire district. So going forward, you're going to actually see an expense in the general fund that's not a transfer. It's going to be an expense to pay for our proportionate share of those costs. And so yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying, and that's how we did it. We passed the budget in there, but we are not going to expense those in fiscal year 26. They're not going to have anything going on in that Fund 17. It's all going to be on the fire district side. They're going to be getting their own quotes for insurance for those 27 individuals. We're not getting that for them.
right. I'm still confused, but that's okay.
Talk about what it's
Yeah,
gonna affect.
I mean,
Just
Yeah.
budgeted for.
That's probably something you
27
really need to
employees.
consider is what we're hoping is taking that higher amount this year for our employees portion is gonna help because next year, we're pretty certain that's gonna be a large increase and it's twofold. It's because of our experience rating and the loss of the 27 employees, right? So that's going to, this year, this renewal rate isn't reflective of losing those 27 employees from Select Health. They didn't figure that in. So next year, those two items are going to be figured in. And if we take a little bit higher this year for the employees, right? Hopefully it won't be as severe to them next year.
So, but if I understand correctly, you're still staying at the ratio that it is currently, that the city's paying 85% of the insurance costs total on behalf of the employee, and the employee is only paying 15%.
That's correct.
Correct.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Mhm.
So then with the fire though, we'll still be paying a third of that, right? As a partner? Like, will their insurance be divided up?
Yeah, we'll be paying in the same way.
Uh-huh.
It's just instead of, like I say, instead of a transfer, it's going to show up as a expense. So we've got to create that still, but it will probably just come under fire department and the general fund and then show our contribution, if you will, to that joint venture.
And so, but we have an interest then in their rates, right? Because we're gonna be paying into them.
And they'll be charging us more. if they
Yeah,
get-
So are,
And
High.
will you
the
be,
way you control that interest is through the budget process each year,
and
right?
so we'll just say that we only have this much and it has to
Yeah.
fit within those parameters.
Yeah, we've brought this up. I think some of you probably, well, the mayor for sure, and Eric maybe's been in a few of those meetings, but they have not updated the joint venture agreement yet. The only thing they've updated is to name the fire district, the employer, as of October 1st. And so as we look at doing an adjustment to that joint venture agreement, that is a section that I would be recommending to you to take a very close look at.
Yeah.
Is how we budget that going forward.
Okay.
Sure.
And then is the reason that some of those drugs are name brand, is there no generic available for those specific drugs?
Well, I think it could be twofold. You have a patient, right, that has better results with the name brand. Now, Select Health has been very aggressive in trying to help that patient to get a generic, right? But there are occasions where there may not be a generic drug that is working as well for the patient. So it's very patient specific. So it can be a few reasons, right?
Nice.
But Select Health is very aggressive in having the patient do that generic drug and trying to mitigate that as much as they can.
Well, all generics are not created equal.
Yeah.
I got a question for you. Have we, I mean, Have we done any shopping around with different agents to see if they can do anything for us better? I mean, we've been with AJ how long? Quite a few years.
Yeah, we did a RFP, in probably maybe 5 or 6 years ago.
No more.
And we had a whole committee that reviewed all of them. And there was a lot of really good options. But it came down to Gallagher and to GBS. And we felt that because GBS was more local, we would stay with GBS. You know, it may be something to consider that when you do a salary study, you do an RFP for your broker for your benefits. You know, it might be something that you set in place as a standard. You may decide to do that could be helpful. You know, a lot of brokerages, they have, I think there's definitely some that have better negotiation skills. They've been in the game longer. They know what to do. You know, right now, we are not in a situation where we are even able to go out and shop. They will just tell us, they'll laugh in our faces because of our experience rating. We just have large claimants on our books right now that are making that, so it's not possible, unfortunately.
And I'll just mention, I mean, I've worked for the city for 20 years, so I've worked with quite a few different agents over the years. And I think AJ does a tremendous job, to be quite honest. And he represents, to give you an idea, he represents Pocatello, he does Idaho Falls, he actually does Madison Memorial as well. And so he has a lot of experience in this industry. And so we really do rely on him quite heavily. And I believe he has some pretty strong negotiating abilities. And like Terry said, I mean, this year we're not in a position to shop it. Next year, if they come back and they're just like, hey, it's a 30 to 35% increase. Yeah, absolutely. We're probably going to say, go shop it, right? Go out and get us options. But based on the experience that we have and sitting at a 12.6%, and considering that last year they gave us a 0% increase, I think we're sitting pretty well right now.
Matt, one question on the 12%. You look at 12.6%, they're looking at increasing. Now we're looking at giving the employees 12% and us 7%. I mean, from the employees' mind frame, they're going to say we're passing that all on to them.
Yeah, and it's hard to, I mean, we obviously don't have every employee in front of us, but we explained that process to the employee committee this morning, and hopefully they'll go back and share that with them. But it really comes down, right, to the fact that the employer is paying 85% of that bill. And so to generate enough cash, if we were to say, well, we're going to always keep ourselves equal. So if we would have went in and said, we're doing 7, so you're going to do 7. What's going to happen is you're just going to end up covering 90% of that bill and then 92% of that bill. And pretty soon they're going to be covering next to nothing. And that's the difficulty in it, right? Because it just doesn't generate that much money if you just went out and said, increase their share 7%. And it doesn't cover that premium increase because you're looking at medical, right? Medical increase. We're
Line item
2.8
the
million.
increased cost shows you the employer's paying annually.
Yeah.
You know, what the employer's paying versus what the employee is paying.
Yeah, and I mean, medical insurance, to give you some perspective, is $2.8 million a year. You know, so when you're saying, well, they're paying 15% of that, it's not a super significant number when you think about how much the total cost is.
And on this employee committee, was it unanimous to go this direction?
Yes. Yeah, they were all good with it.
Okay. Any more questions for Matt and Terry? And if not, I'll entertain a motion to approval of the 2026 health and other employee benefits.
I'll make that motion that we approve the health and other employee benefits for 2026 that we've discussed.
Okay. Motion made by Councilmember Johnson. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Reeser. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, that carries.
Okay, thank you.
That's all you have? Keith, you're on the hot seat. As usual.
All
I
right.
gotta say though, he got my stoplight fixed.
Yes.
They did.
That's what
I'm
we're
a
calling
stoplight,
that
yeah.
stoplight. It's no longer University and Yellowstone, it's Walker.
That's right, exactly.
Okay, so I just have a couple items on it. We're gonna wait till probably next council meeting. I'm still waiting for some costs coming back on that lift station. We're looking for ways we can save money there. But anyways, the first item I have is we're looking at surplusing the 1984 Dodge Ram Charger. It's been here a while with the city. In fact, this was like
This was
the
here,
first vehicle when I started working here I drove.
this was here when I was started, 30+ years ago, I think, about,
Yep.
I remember when.
So it's time to surplus it. So just seeking council's approval.
I'll make that motion.
The motion made by council member Colin Erickson. Did a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Eric Erickson. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay,
So really have only 81,000 miles on it? Or is that odometer flipped over?
I would. Yeah,
I think that's what I saw in the photo.
it might be one of those ones that's flipped.
87, could be flipped though.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that for 1984.
I think it's.
That's probably accurate. It's not,
Might be.
it's not been used.
Yeah, I wonder how long it's been used.
Yeah, the parks have had it for a while. So.
That's a screaming machine right there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so the next item I had for the council is just a discussion on, so our policy's been when properties change hands that we require sidewalk to go in on that property if it doesn't have sidewalk existing. And so we had a property on Salem Avenue. It's the one at the end of Salem. I forget the address on it, but that one right there. And so the concern that the property owner brought up to my attention is just that, as you can see, a vehicle parked in the driveway is going to set over the sidewalk. Because when this development went in, the homes were allowed to go close to that property line and not have the distance. Now we look at a 20-foot setback from at least the property line to wherever the garage or the building would sit. And so that the gentleman's concern was just that he'd be parking over the sidewalk, right? If he was parking in his driveway on that. But I did some kind of looking around to see, what have we had other roads like this? And there is Bear Street, which is south of this road, very similar. One of these roads where they've built the road in and then some homes have built on the end. Not the best situation because generally we like to see a cul-de-sac or some way for our plows and garbage trucks to turn around in a meaningful manner. And so on that street, we did require sidewalks to go in. And so the property owners put longer driveways next to their house going up in. And so we can just zoom out. It's just south. So you can see the homes on Bear Street where they put those kind of longer driveways in it, little kind of off to the side. And I think those are rental units as well, if I remember right.
Were those driveways put in at the time of construction where they went up the side, or is this something that was modified?
I think the one with the white roof was put in at the time of construction because that one went in not that long ago. And so, but the other ones, as properties change hands, we've required that sidewalk to go in. Now, a lot of the properties on the south sides of these roads have enough distance with the home. So the south side isn't the problem. It's really the north side. We do have some areas. So up in Founders Square, that's a PUD, a planned unit development. That one allows the homes to be within 10 feet of the property line because of that PUD. But we've said that in order to park in there, if you have a garage, you can't park across the sidewalk. And I think as a city, we don't want to allow a policy of parking across a sidewalk. And so I think that's what I wanted to just get council's discussion on, what direction. This would be a change if we were to not require the sidewalk to go in. So we'd have to look at if we were to change the policy on that, or if we require the sidewalk to go in and we just say, you know, because they can park on the street during the time when we allow on-street parking. It would just be in the wintertime that would be not allowed when we're plowing.
Jeez, sorry. So Keith, just a question. What is the procedure for to request a variance from an
From a
ordinance?
policy standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm getting at is, it seems to me like instead of making an allowance for a particular individual, maybe we would have them go through the variance procedure. I agree to require a sidewalk in that particular instance doesn't make a lot of sense. But I'd rather stick with the ordinance as it is and have a situation like this go through a variance procedure to obtain a variance to the ordinance instead of us piecemealing. Okay, well, we're not going to apply it here. We're not going to apply it here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure on this policy. I mean, because we do variances. I know the previous attorney didn't really like variances, right?
No, I know that.
And so, I mean, part of me is like, well, is there a change in the policy if you wanted to head that direction? If you don't want to head that, right? I mean, that's why this is a discussion, is either to say, well, yeah, we feel like sidewalks should go in this location, and you need to look at an alternate way to park your vehicle in that case. Because if you don't put in sidewalks, then you're just saying, well, the road is now the sidewalk, right? I mean, that's theoretically what you're saying is, if we're not going to have sidewalks here, then the road becomes the sidewalk on that. And so, yeah, it is a kind of a challenging situation.
I guess my idea is looking at what we required on Bear Street. I mean, and we're trying to get more sidewalks put in as a change ownerships, so we can start getting that continuity. I would prefer having a sidewalk out against the curb and still letting them park alongside the house so they get away from the sidewalk, but still require the sidewalk to be put in. So eventually we'll have a full sidewalk down that street as those change ownership. I mean, I know it's not one house here and one house there, but eventually it's going to lead into a full sidewalk.
Yeah.
Did you say the owner contacted you
Uh-huh.
interested in putting the sidewalk in? I couldn't understand.
No. So we required, so that change hands, we required the sidewalk to go in.
He's concerned about
petitioning, saying, well, where am I going to park my vehicles, right? Because he's also looking at potentially renting out part of it. And so he's like, well, I've got the garage, but then if I have additional people, right, then where do I have them park?
What about, so if we did consider, because you can see on the west side, both of those sidewalks are up against the road.
Yeah.
How is the snowplow done? I drove down that road just to kind of get eyes on it, to see what it was like just before coming here. And it's, it's tough to turn around. It's definitely not a cul-de-sac at the other end. But how do you snowplow it now? I can't imagine a snowplow is able to turn around on that road.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time. That's why it's not a good situation. But it's some of these things we just have to deal with, right? It's past decisions made that, right, we have to work through. But yeah, it's not an
walk
easy.
in with a plow on it. I mean, or do you actually send a full-size snowplow down that road?
Yeah. So they just have to. It's either how we windrow it. I'd have to get with them to see exactly how they do this one. I don't know off the top of my head. But yeah, inevitably we'd end up having to windrow or do something, right? We're going to plow to the edges. So if there's a sidewalk against the curb, and we have that all over the city, right? In this area, we would probably say, yeah, the sidewalk needs to go against the curb. We'd look at if there's a mailbox, they need to do a bump around that mailbox so there's a pathway to go around the mailbox. on
And
that.
that's just what I was asking,
Yeah.
because, you know,
Oh, yeah.
obviously, in the wintertime, the snow is gonna go on the sidewalk. We do require them to have it, but allow it against the road, but that just might be the best solution to a kind of an odd
Mhm.
challenge right here.
And to me, looking at this, there's room to move that back like bear so they can park down along the side of the house, give them plenty of parking. It's gonna be a rental, so you're also gonna have more people there. We always struggle with parking. To me, to say no sidewalk and have them go right to the curb, we're gonna cause more problems. I mean, I prefer putting the sidewalk in and then eventually having that whole street with the sidewalk.
Yeah, I think when you start making exceptions, then we're gonna have some troubles. So either we have to keep it all uniform or we change it. And if it's gonna be a rental, I feel like there's gonna be a lot of cars there. So I agree with what Councilmember Erickson said.
So the consensus is to have him go ahead and have him put sidewalk in. Okay, that's how I feel.
Okay, I'll let them know.
Mhm.
Okay, that's all I had.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It says action item.
Can I- yeah.
Oh, action.
No, you just stay the policy.
Okay.
You just say, hey, we're gonna keep the policy. So that's the only, if we were gonna change something, then yes, an action item.
Okay.
Or a direction for me, so.
Do you have any updates on our LIDs?
On our LIDs, yeah, so they're, obviously in the process, haven't been over, but they should be getting close to paving Fifth West on that one. We did find that on First West, so from Main Street down to First South, that actually has good gravel. It has fabric underneath it, so we're not going to be pulling all that gravel out. So that should move a little faster there. They're working currently on the sewer line, doing replacement of those old lines. Those old lines were like in Orangeburg, the type of pipe that we see failure on. And so they're in the process of doing that on First South. And then also we have construction up on Second East that's going on. And that's actually, that portion is we're redoing some sewer line that we've had some issues with. And so the company Vanguard's doing that sewer line. We also, our street department went in and tore out Second East. I don't know if you remember there at Second East and Second South, we were getting some pretty good rutting in that section. And so we were digging that out because we wanted to get rid of those ruts because they're going to bring that sewer line in. So we thought, this is a good time where there's going to be some repavement happening. So we're in that process. We're hoping that will be completed before the students get here at the end of next week.
We hope.
Yeah, I'm keeping my fingers crossed. And unfortunately on that sewer line, there's some spots that they were getting in where we had to take rock out because we're using 13-foot sticks and they were using 3-foot pieces of clay pipe when they originally put it in. And so they could jog around the rock. And so our contractor had to jackhammer out rock and things like that up on the hill. So it's taken a little more time. And so we're keeping our fingers crossed. Anytime you're underground and you can't see until you open it up, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, this is going to cause us more time.
Not surprises.
Yep.
Just a comment, this First South project, we were going to have, 15,000 kids here next week.
Yeah.
And that's going to cause all kinds of trouble. I mean, you're going to get all kinds of complaints. Isn't there any way we can start that earlier in the summer and complete it before all the traffic shows up?
I wish that there was a way, but inevitably there's things that come up and contractors get behind schedule. That's just the short answer. Yes, we would love to have it all done, but there's other factors that come into play, right? As we try and balance when the contractor can start, when the availability with all the materials and things like that. Yes, if I had my wish, yes, it would all be completed and we'd be done before students got here. But our construction window is fairly short. So yeah, that unfortunately causes us concerns.
I'd like to say a comment, hopefully we get Second East open.
Yeah, no, we're pushing on that one. I think
Also,
that
one
one,
other thing-
I mean, First South, it's not as heavily utilize, I mean, it's utilized, but not as heavily as like if I was on Second South or some of these more main streets, but it's still going to be impactful for sure.
We also have homecoming on Friday for the high school.
Yeah, a week from
Wait,
Friday.
on Friday.
Yeah, when they come in, the day they move in.
The good news is the police won't have to shut off that section of First West. It'll already shut off.
Anything else for Keith? Hey, thanks, Keith.
Okay, thanks.
Just quickly, Mike, if I could.
Yep.
Okay,
You
just
got it.
a quick footnote on variances that were brought up, and Keith had mentioned that the previous attorney wasn't a big fan. I would say that I'm in that same boat. So there's kind of a general rule with variances when it comes to government entities or municipalities, that they are constructive in theory, but destructive in practice, meaning that it seems like a good idea at times to be able to look at something in an individual manner and say, hey, let's use some common sense here and figure things out. From somebody being able to challenge a ruling or challenge a decision on a variance, it takes you out of our typical code or law challenges, which again, when somebody challenges an ordinance, the standard in which they challenge it, they say, is this arbitrary, capricious, and an abuse of discretion? Is this law? Does it qualify to that? When you have variances or a process of a variance from that established ordinance, it takes it from just that kind of basic, hey, is this law as a whole arbitrary? Is it capricious? Is it an abuse of discretion? And it looks at the individual decision-making and the individual facts in which that variance was allowed. And so again, I thought I'd put that out there. Constructive in theory, destructive in practice. And from a
So is there no process in place, just for future reference, is there no process in place for an individual to pursue a variance?
in terms of, I would ask as to into what context, from a planning and zoning, from a building code, things like that. I think it's often that people come to Alan with certain situations, and I wouldn't say that there isn't a, I'll defer to Alan on that. What his process is or what he does. I mean, the old process sometimes is they discuss those things and then they would bring it to Stephen, which I like to have more of a collaborative discussion sometimes with our groups, and then consistency. From my standpoint, I would say ordinances that are well written and ordinances that, for instance, Alan and I this year have worked on a couple of some of the language in ordinances to shore up some of those ambiguities so we can just have a clear standard on certain things. But again, whether it's this week, next week, or next month, next year, people are always going to look for a certain variance. But again, to echo what Council Member Johnson said, when you start making some of those exceptions, it can, not necessarily even now, because if it calms the contentious nature of what's happening, then, oh, hey, look, all we did was give a little bit here and now this issue's gone. It rears its head in future decisions that you're making when you're not giving that same variance. But as to a process, I mean, again, somebody gets a parking ticket, there's an appeal process. Somebody has, so I think department to department, there are certain things so just to say that there's no variance from any ordinance ever, I think that's not a flushed out answer, but I would defer to the department heads, to Keith and Alan, if they have a specific process. But for the most part, we have ordinances, they have standards, and they apply them pretty consistently. Now, again, there's always factual things. And I think the reason that Mr. Davidson brought this one forward is because, again, he was looking for guidance based on specific facts and brought it to, the elected officials. And I think that's proper course.
And so a different decision tonight would have, in essence, created a variance. If we had decided, well, no, we don't need sidewalks in this street.
Yeah, I would look at
policy change.
Code change.
Code change,
Code
not a
change.
variance that would be pretty specific and it would apply across the board. Now, coming up with that would be challenging, but that's what we would try and do.
You're talking, you're talking about a policy, but we're, isn't it an ordinance that states when,
But the ordinance would reflect, a change of ordinance would reflect that what you would call variance. We would say a change to the law, which again, as Keith stated, it would be hard to write because then you write into a law an exception that is specific to a singular circumstance. Then the next person that comes along and they apply the law to their situation, the law now is written to a specific, for as long as it doesn't involve, whatever it is, if the setback is this far or whatever it is, it's not necessarily going to fit the next factual scenario. And so again, if we can have consistent ordinances, consistent regulations and standards, and then apply them, it doesn't mean that there isn't at all a common sense approach, but it's within reason and it's within our ordinances and standards that we have set. Okay, I would think, and again, we don't make decisions in a vacuum. Whenever we have these things, I've heard of, Keith brought this to me a month ago. We took it to multiple individuals. I've had a discussion with Matt on this same thing because again, we're looking at, are we creating precedent that we don't want to have moving forward? Alan, when we have somebody request a variance on a zoning, on any type of project, Alan, that brings that to the ready team, and we have a discussion about possible repercussions of what we're doing and try to find some consensus. And if at times it means bringing it to you folks, that's what we'll do.
And I'd just say, when it comes to a sidewalk, I can think of a lot of repercussions because of the disgruntled residents we have when we tell them they have to put in their sidewalk. So I think keeping that uniform, that's what we're doing. That's what we need to do because that's only fair. So.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you. Now we move on to item 6, the mayor's business. Mayor's not here, but he does have some business I need to do. He wants to, we need to ratify this proclamation number 2025-05, Constitution Week, September 17th to the 23rd of 2025. I want to read this proclamation. Proclaiming September 17th through 23rd as Constitution Week. Whereas September 17th, 2025 marks the 238th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention, and whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document in its memorable anniversary and to the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate the occasion. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America designating September 17th through 23rd as Constitution Week. Now, therefore, I, Jerry Merrill, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Rexburg, do hereby proclaim the week of September 17th through 23rd as Constitution Week, and ask our citizens to reaffirm the ideals of the framers of the Constitution had in 1787 by vigilantly protecting the freedoms guaranteed to us through this guardian of our liberties, remembering that lost rights may never be regained. Adopted by the city of Rexburg, state of Idaho, on this 3rd day of September 2025. Signed, Jerry Merrill. So I need a motion to ratify the proclamation.
Mr. President, I'll move to ratify proclamation number 2025-05, designating Constitution Week.
Yeah, you got a motion by Councilmember Eric Erickson. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Colin Erickson. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That passes. Move on to number 7, planning items of consideration, planning and zoning recommendation to approve a conditional use permit to allow religious worship and meeting house in low density residential to zone per the Rexburg Development Code at 2355 Summerfield Lane. Designated number 25-00664. Alan, you're up.
President Walker, council members, thank you. It was presented to us that this location in Summerfield, the LDS Church is requesting a conditional use permit. So they may be able to build a chapel in this area. We brought it to the planning and zoning, had the public hearing, and had a unanimous decision to move this forward for you guys to review. I would just ask, do you have any questions? We recommend approval, but we would just ask, do you have any questions?
I do have a comment. All the letters that I read are in, there's nobody opposed to it. Everybody's in favor.
We had 2 people that showed up that were positive, and then we had, I think, 4 or 5 letters, and they were all in favor of this going forward. There was nobody that was neutral or negative in the meeting.
Is there plenty of space there for adequate parking and all that?
Yes, they've shown us a sketch of what they're looking at doing.
Yeah, just as a point, 15 years ago or more, when the building was built on 12th West, that building,
Mhm.
this particular piece of ground, it originally was platted by, I guess it was Karchner's, as a place for a church.
Correct.
And so it makes all the sense in the world to build a church there. I'm glad to see it happening. I didn't think we were going to get any more churches around, but that's a good idea.
And my understanding is the larger building there is more towards student housing.
It is.
And so this is going to be more for traditional wards. And then we're getting a very large population in Summerfield and with possibilities of extending that. So they believe it's time that they place another chapel in that area.
Yeah.
And obviously we don't know exactly what the church is going to do with the ward boundaries and all that other stuff, but I would imagine the traffic is going to be internal mostly to that building. So it's not going to affect 12th West, or
it may even reduce it because some of those people are traveling out onto 12th West to go to
Yeah.
other chapels.
I live across the street from that and we all have to leave the area. So
So it could reduce traffic.
Yeah, right now, everybody comes on 12th West to go.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay.
Any more questions for Alan? I'll entertain a motion to approve a conditional use permit on 2355 Summerfield Lane.
I'll make that motion that we approve the conditional use permit located at 2355 Summerfield Lane.
Okay, motion made by Councilmember Johnson. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Colin Erickson. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that passes.
Thank you.
Is there one more?
It's the development code ordinance 1357.
Yes. Yeah, planning and zoning recommendation to approve an amendment to the current development code, ordinance number 1200 for the city of Rexburg, designated as ordinance number 1337 and considered first read. Any questions? This was in our packet.
This was in your packet. This is the one that we went through the work meetings. We had 2 different work meetings that we presented the information to you. The discussion went on. We made changes from the first work meeting, come back to you with those, continued on through. You had further suggestions. Those changes have been made and only those changes have been made. Nothing else has been changed. And so we're presenting it to you at this time for adoption for our code.
Any questions for Alan? Okay, if not, I entertain a motion to approve amendment number ordinance number 1337 and consider it first read.
I'll make that motion that we approve ordinance number 1337 first read.
Okay, motion by Colin Erickson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Eric Erickson. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes. Consider it first read.
President Walker,
Yes.
I had a couple things to bring up on the mayor's business, but
Okay,
it was too fast for me.
sorry.
I know last city council, we had some citizens come in here and discuss Yale Avenue, Yale Street. I don't know if anybody else drove up there. I drove up there and walked the areas, looked at those houses. I talked to Natalie. And looking at what we have in the city right now on ways to fix that. We have things set up. I think that a lot of citizens don't understand that. They can contact the city of Rexburg. We have Natalie will go out and look at that. I think this probably should have been brought up like a year ago, and Natalie had been on it. There is definitely some work that needs to be done up there. She's already been on it. So that's been really good to know that's been looked at. And she's been up there talking to those neighbors and looking at those houses and trying to clean up some of those blocks, or those blocks that's up there. So that's been really good to see that. And also like the dogs barking, we have ordinance there that if they just call up the police department, we'll go out and have our animal control officer go up and listen and talk to them. And if they had to be cited, they could be cited on that. So there's things out there.
Did you guys see the email that I forwarded from Natalie and just
Yeah,
the work?
had all
we're
those
gonna do?
properties, address by address, and her response. It was nice.
And so we're also reviewing the code from Pocatello. And there's a lot of stuff that we already have covered, but in our own municipal code, they're categorized, different. So we're going to look at some reorganization, which does not require, it doesn't require an ordinance amendment in the code. We just change the numbering and move it around and group it differently. But if there's any changes at all, we will present those to you. So I think Natalie was thinking it might be helpful if she has more direction as far as the length of a lawn. She's, just 6 inches, 12, whatever it is.
I don't know. We need to go.
But I mean, it's that she has to deal with that quite a bit. Where in the code does it say how long my lawn can be or how long my weeds can be, that type of thing. So it might be something that we consider amending. So we'll get that to you.
And so that's one thing I looked at this last week. And the next thing I had when I've been around town, I've had several people talk to me about this, about some developments going on, and this called will serve letter being promised out there from a jurisdiction north of us. I think that we might want to look at this on maybe a agenda next time, bring it up, and maybe have a discussion on the connection of our sewer lines, our water lines, for other avenues coming north.
What's that?
So there's been some promises I heard, and I don't know how much rumor it is out there. There've been some promises out there that they're promising connection onto our sewer system, our water system to the north on different areas instead of going clear back to the main line. And I think maybe we could discuss that and clarify that in our council to what we feel like should be. Because some of the promises that's being addressed there, I worry that we need to clarify it and make sure that people know that we're protecting our taxpayers and the people that put in that system also.
Yeah, I think it's appropriate rather than having it flushed out today. I think it's appropriate as putting it as an item moving forward. And again, it was brought to my attention last week. It has been litigated previously. There was kind of an overhaul in 2011, 2012 of the court system and court records. And some of this it far predates 2006, 2007, some of those things. And so they aren't widely available online. But again, I've reached out and again, trying to have all the resources and anything that has previously been done available to you and to our department heads moving forward, just so we can have consistency in questions that are being asked. And so again, I think it's appropriate to put it on a future agenda item, and then I'll do some groundwork and find everything I have. So again, you can have all the information moving forward.
That's why I wanted just to briefly bring it up. It's
just briefly, are we talking about agreements between us and Sugar City?
Yes.
And
some promises been thrown out there. I just heard this last week and I said, wait a second.
Okay.
We haven't discussed it even as a council. We need to bring up our whole council. Some of these agreements are before none of us was elected on here, just so we can have a discussion and maybe clarify some things of how we feel to be able to protect our citizens of Rexburg and what's going forward. So it's just so we can put on the agenda. That's the only thing I want to bring up.
Okay. Good.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
Hey, thank you for that. Move on to item number 8, calendar bills. We have no second readings. We do have one third reading. Ordinance number 1335 fiscal year 2025 budget amendment. I have a motion to consider that third read.
Mr. President, I would move that we consider ordinance number 1335 third read.
I have a motion on the table by Eric Erickson. Do I have a second?
I second.
Second by Councilmember Reeser. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that is done. Number 9, our consent calendar. Minutes from the August 20th, 25 council meeting. Approve the Rexburg city bills and approval of 2025-26 beer and wine licenses. 3 of them.
So I noticed.
23 is paid, right? Is that what it is?
We've paid, so we'll have the remainder of them on our next. We'll have them again on next.
I was curious about one of them. I noticed that one was more like double than the others.
Yeah, so we have on premise, so those are $400 annually for beer and wine, so they're $200 a piece. So it's open container.
Okay.
The others $15.50 for beer and wine, like at your grocery stores and gas stations.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Do I have a motion to accept the consent calendar?
Mr. President, I move that we accept the consent calendar.
Have a motion by Councilmember Reeser. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Johnson. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Is there anything else that needs to come before the council? Just a reminder that the week from Friday is homecoming parade. Homecoming game will be that night. And so get out and support the mighty Madison Bobcats. Not other than that, we're adjourned.
Sounds good.
We did. They lost 5 points. But Hillcrest is, I think, the reigning 4A champ or 5A champ now. So they're no slouch. We beat them last year. Wow. That's what I understand. I didn't really. I don't.